Lots of big breaking news. Top U.S. generals and chiefs of entire branches of the military are now giving urgent World War III warnings for the United States. And this could be the big one. This could be the thing that sets off the reset and the collapse event, and he is now warning of it. We are also seeing planes having their radars jammed and being hacked. All right, we're seeing warnings on that. And we're also seeing massive cyber attacks on banks and hundreds of thousands of people having their bank records leaked and hacked as well. So we will get to all this news. Things are ramping up. They are really pushing this war narrative because there's an internal collapse. Look at the banking collapse. Look at the supply chain collapse. Look at everything, the inflation, everything that's been happening the past few years. And this always happens with countries. They get in massive economic crises, domestic crisis, and then it tends to turn into war. And we are seeing this happen with multiple countries all around the world because this is engineered. And we, just like we've seen in past histories, both sides of the war are funded by the bankers, all right? And the banks are collapsing coincidentally right now, so we're going to see a massive escalation towards war. And now top U.S. generals and commanders are even warning of this as well. So let's get into all this news. Lots of big news. Planes having their radars disrupted and being hacked. All right, governments are saying this. Banks being cyber attacked. All this stuff, lots of big news. So we're going to get to all this stuff. So stick with me here. Let's get into what this top U.S. general said. The commander of the Space Force issued this warning just this week. And this is very serious because this will affect everything. This could shut down the entire grid. And Congress himself has even warned a scenario like this could cause 90% of the U.S. population to not make it within the first year. All right, I've covered this many times. I've showed the documents many times. I'm sure many of you have seen it, but this is huge that he's warning of this. So let's get into this. So the chief of the Space Force, top U.S. general, head of an entire military branch, is warning that space weapons to attack U.S. satellites are now being deployed potentially by China and Russia. And this is a real warning, but it's also a false flag warning, okay? We could see our own government turn off these satellites, turn off the grid, turn off the telecommunications as well with a internet kill switch or a telecommunications kill switch. And this is huge that the Space Force chief is coming out and warning of this now. And because everything operates on satellites, GPS operates on satellites, and there's even weapons that China has been testing. All right, we will get into more details of what he just said, but I wanted to touch on this in just a second because China has already tested these weapons before. I made a whole video on this back in October when this article came out. But China is using essentially EMP weapons. They are testing EMP weapons that they detonate in the atmosphere to knock out satellites and to knock out telecommunications in certain areas. All right, you can see here China uses nuclear anti-satellite weapon to destroy space target and simulations drill. And they were saying is Elon Musk's Starlink a target? And they're going into how all of these countries see Starlink as a massive threat to them because look at how it's being used right now overseas. It is essentially the backbone of what's going on over there and how they can communicate. It's how the drones operate. They're using these Starlink satellites for all their communications and for all of their weaponry as well. And they are using these satellites. And this article was saying that China is perceiving these satellites as a threat, and they are building anti-satellite weapons that are nuclear weapons that they detonate in the atmosphere to knock them out. Essentially, they're working on highly advanced EMP, highly targeted EMP weapons to detonate. All right, so this is a real threat, and you can bet that our own government even has weapons like this as well too. And you can see here, let's dive into what he's saying, and then we will get into these planes being hacked and banks being hacked as well. It's really starting to head itself, right? What's actually going on. It's really starting to show. And you can see here, China's military has deployed 347 satellites, including 35 launched in the past 6 months to target U.S. forces in future conflict, the Space Force commander is saying. And he's also saying that Russia has similar satellites, and they have orbital anti-satellite weapons, extensive cyber capabilities, and land-based anti-satellite missiles, electronic jammers, and lasers, and nuclear EMP weapons as well. He said, quote, both are intent on targeting perceived U.S. vulnerabilities and eliminating American advantage in the space domain, the four-star general told the Senate Armed Service Subcommittee on Strategic Forces hearing Tuesday. All right, this is what's going on. America is a captured nation, and it's essentially like a ship. Think of it as a ship out in the sea. Our ship has been captured, all right, and they're going to make our ship go to war with China's ship and Russia's ship. This is what they're lining it up for. And China's been captured too. China is the globalist model. Klaus Schwab continuously praises China, how great they are, their dystopian nightmare, and their lockdowns that they've had the past few years, and their facial recognition and scanning and tracking and tracing, and their social credit score system. That is constantly praised, and China is the model. Okay, so they're going to use China to take down the U.S., and then once the U.S. falls, then they can implement this global tyranny and implement this China model on the world. That's what they want. And the U.S., our ship has been captured, all right, and they're driving it straight towards China, straight towards a massive war with China. Think of all this escalation, these balloons. We had another general come out a couple weeks ago and say war with China is inevitable in the next 18 months. All right, so we are getting warning after warning, and now we're being warned that our satellites and our telecommunications could be taken out. And once that happens, that's essentially like a EMP. I've reported on it multiple times how a congressional report has been put out that says a EMP event over North America at a specific region. They were saying right around Missouri, if it was detonated over Missouri at a specific altitude and at a specific rate, then they would be able to wipe out 90% of the U.S. population within 1 year, because everything depends on telecommunications, these satellites, the internet, the supply chain, the logistics of everything. Even our national security itself depends on these satellites. And if they're taken out, it's over. It's over. And they are now warning that this is a real possibility that these satellites could be taken out anytime now. And China itself has even tested very similar weapons, EMP anti-satellite weapons. I thought this next article here was very interesting because they are now coming out and directly blaming China for thousands of these cyber attacks that have been happening over the past few years. If you've been following my channel, there have been dozens and dozens of these cyber attacks, and they are increasing in frequency. We had Applied Materials, the largest semiconductor manufacturer in the entire world, have a massive cyber attack, and they had to shut down production of some of their facilities, resulting in $250 million loss just in the first quarter, the first 3 months. So these cyber attacks are escalating, and now we have Google coming out and accusing China of a lot of these cyber attacks. And honestly, China probably has done a lot of these, but a lot of them also can be redirected to be spoofed, to look like they come from other countries as well. That's why cyber attacks are so dangerous. And there's even been admissions in the Vault 7 of WikiLeaks that the FBI has Russian hacking tools, and can use their tools to make it look like Russia did a cyber attack. All right, so it gets a sketchy gray area, and they're also very dangerous as well. And there's really not any way to prepare for this, okay? These massive companies, banks, planes now even are just getting hit left and right. It's as long as you are protected yourself, but what happens if your bank gets hit? There's really nothing you can do. There's no way to prepare for that. We keep seeing glitch after glitch after glitch. Remember that FAA glitch last month? You remember that all the flights were grounded. Remember that Bank of America glitch that I reported on last month. Remember that Wells Fargo glitch I reported on last week. All these glitches keep happening, and we never know when it could be the big glitch, all right? And even in Australia right now, this is happening. Sorry about that. We'll get to that in just a second, but this is happening to Australian pilots as well. It says Australia blames, quote, Chinese military for harassing civilian airliners, warns pilots of VHF attacks and GPS jamming. So even planes are now being hit while they are flying. And it says Qantas has warned its pilots about very high frequency interference from stations purporting to represent the PLA in the South China Sea and Western Pacific, as well as GPS jamming allegedly originating from warships off the coast of the Northwest Australia. Okay, so GPS jamming, even commercial civilian airliners are being affected now. We are already in a massive war. There just hasn't been an official, hey, it started, World War III started. There hasn't been this official moment for something very big to happen. Everyone's waiting for something huge to happen. But all it takes for us to be in a world war is for dozens of countries, which is happening right now, to be forming very rigid alliances and to be coming against each other, right? Lines are being drawn in the sand. Russia, China, Iran, North Korea versus NATO and Australia and Japan. These lines are being drawn in the sand right now. And we are already in a world war. It's just not being admitted. And this most likely will be the big one to bring in the big collapse. All right. China is already warning of this too. They are saying that we need to have a global civilization initiative, a global citizen initiative, which is essentially a global ID for all people so they can be tracked and traced. And they're saying it's good. It's a good thing. And they need a massive war. They need a massive event like a banking collapse. I think we're going to have the banking collapse and the war on top of it. Look at what happened during the Great Depression era. We had a massive boom, all right, lots of excess, a massive bust, banking collapse, bank runs, stock market crash, and then we had a war. And the way we got out of this depression was a massive war, okay? And every time there's a new war, they always reset the agenda and they want to bring this global citizen ID and tracking and tracing of everything out of a global war. All right, that's what this cyber attack on this bank's about. So Latitude Financial hit by cyber attack, more than 300,000 identity documents stolen. That's why these banks and everything keeps being so unsecure. That's why these cyber attacks keep happening more and more, because they want to push towards this. They want everything to be so unsecure, so safe, so at risk that people beg for a global citizen ID to protect them, to keep them safe, so everything is tracked and traced and they know that your money is safe, right? Even a sitting senator in the U.S., Elizabeth Warren, was saying that everybody should just bank with the federal government directly. All right. And we're going to see cyber attacks. We're going to see bank runs. We're going to see banks being shut down until only the big banks are left. And then they will go along with the agenda or they will be shut down. And they're going to be forced to go along with this global citizens agenda. And it's all part of the war, too. They want a global government And we're kind of seeing a power struggle of who is going to be in control of this global government. And it looks like China wants to be the one on top. They are allowing the US and Russia essentially to exhaust themselves, exhaust all of their munitions, exhaust all of their resources, and damage themselves economically while China sits in the background and reaps all of the benefits of this. All right. And it seems like China might come out on top, and they're about to make their move with Taiwan as well. I was reading just today. I should have put this article in here, but I just thought of this because I was thinking about China invading Taiwan. Just today I read that the US said that they would rather destroy the chip plants inside of Taiwan than allow China to gain access to them. Okay? Do you know how absolutely insane that is? I don't want China to invade Taiwan at all. I don't want this situation to escalate 100%. And I love America. I was born in America, 100% American. I will never leave America. All right? Yeah, I'm going to be here till the end. All right? I'm American. But this is insane. What are we going to do if all of these factories are destroyed? Because at least if China takes them over, at least we could negotiate with China, trade with China still, and cut our losses here. But they are saying they would rather destroy all the chips, and then what happens to the global chip and semiconductor supply chain? It is completely ruined and literally destroyed by the US military, right? And they're saying that they are thinking of these options right now because we're this close to China invading Taiwan and having another situation where the US is saying, hey, we're going to defend this country, even though it's not in any treaties with the US technically, any defense treaties, we are going to defend this country with our United States military with the full force of it. And that's what Biden has even said multiple times on trips to Asia. Just a few months ago, he was saying this: we will defend Taiwan with whatever it takes. And they're so insane that they would rather just blow up these chip facilities instead of just allow China to take over them, or instead of just having some kind of offensive solution to this before it even happens. All right, the only solution is just, hey, let's just blow up these. It sounds like a win-win for the globalists either way. That's what I mean. It's either way. Both sides of this conflict are being paid by the same people. All right, think about it. If China takes over the global chip supply in Taiwan, it's a win for the globalists. All right, Klaus Schwab openly praises China constantly and says they are the model for the West. Justin Trudeau praises Z and says Z is his model, and says he's wish he could be a dictator like Z, the Prime Minister of Canada. All right, China is the model for the West, but either way, in this situation, it's going to be bad. It's either China takes over the factories or the United States just destroys all the factories. So it's a win-win for the globalist either way, and they're putting us in a situation where we can't win. We can't win. The only way to win is to get out, is to be prepared, is to be preemptive, is to not be subjected to these massive disruptions. All right. If you already are prepared now, you have your food now, you have your supplies now, then it won't hit you as hard when there's a massive semiconductor and chip manufacturing shortage. And these affect everything. These affect your debit card. That little chip inside your debit card now, your credit card, that gray little chip, that is a microchip and has semiconductors in it. And everything you touch essentially has it inside of it. All right. We live in the 21st century, and all of these things will be affected if the chips go offline. Just a couple weeks ago, too, there was multiple internet cables cut, underwater internet cables cut, fiber optic cables going to Taiwan. All right. And they had massive internet outages. I reported on this a couple weeks ago. And this is also another thing that is in the cards. These underwater cables could be cut at any moment, and then we could see massive disruptions in telecommunications and the internet. There's trillions of dollars at risk in the economy exclusively that operates on the internet, and then there's trillions of dollars more that operates with the help of the internet. It's a physical product, but it uses the internet for shipping or logistics or for advertising. Okay, so this is huge. They've really put us in a bind. They've built all of this infrastructure and technology around us. They've made it so convenient, and now they can flip the switch at any moment and reset it. And they want to do that, and they want to have internet IDs so nobody can even go on the internet anonymously, and you have to show your government ID to even access the internet, and you can be banned from the internet as well. It's the same exact concept as the digital currency, right? They can program this digital currency to not be allowed to buy certain goods, right? Or not, certain people aren't allowed to use it. It's the same thing with the internet ID. They could program it. They could ban you. They could say you're not allowed to visit certain sites, or you're not allowed to post on this site at a governmental level, right? So this is already happening too. Look at what's happening in New York right now. NYC Grocer Fairway is using face scanning technology to prevent shoplifters. This is what they want. They want to wipe out everything. They want to wipe out our telecommunications, wipe out the internet, massive EMP events, and then build on its ashes a dystopian, technocratic society where this is the only solution. Everything else has been completely obliterated, and this is your only solution, is to sign up for this digital ID face scanning. And now grocers in NYC are even saying that they are scanning your eyes, and they are scanning your voice print as well too. They're using voice recognition to figure out who they are, because they're saying, oh, people are covering their face, all right? They're wearing masks, things like this. So we need to be able to scan your eyes, scan your iris, and have biometric data on you just to shop at the grocery store, all right? And they're also saying voice print as well. And I made multiple reports on this in the past month. Walmart is doing the same thing. Walmart tracks and trace every little thing you touch in the store. There's even item tracing. There's facial recognition, and then there's item tracing as well. And they're tracing every item that you take out of your cart, you put in your cart, you take off the shelf. All these things are being tracked and traced constantly. And it's to implement this beast system that they are working on. All right. I made a video on Family Dollar as well last month. How when you walk into some Family Dollar stores now, they have facial recognition, and they even show you on the screen, and it has a red square around your face when you walk in, and it tries to identify you. And once it has identified you and it determines you're not a threat, all right, this is the excuse now. It's for shoplifting, because they've let crime get so out of control, and that's a whole nother story. All right, I see videos all the time of people just walking in stores and just taking stuff off the shelves and just walking out, and everyone just lets it happen. Absolutely insane. But that's the excuse they're going to use now. And in the future, it's going to be used to exclude you from buying, selling, trading things. This already happened to, I can't remember what this lady's profession is. She worked at like a law firm or something along these lines. And there was another law firm that was in competition with her, okay? And the owner of this law firm is friends with this event holder, this event venue owner, okay? So this guy owns an event venue, and this guy's friends with this other guy at this rival law firm of this lady. And this lady went to an event at this venue for her kids. It was like Girl Scout cookies. This was a few months ago. I didn't even report on it, so it's kind of shady in my memory. But this is like the general thing of what happened. And it was like a Girl Scout event or something like that. It was something for her kid. And this event venue face scanned her. They had facial recognition. They saw her. They identified her with facial recognition, and they singled her out, and they forced her to leave this venue that her kid was having like a Girl Scout party or something at. Okay? Because the rival lawyer group didn't like this lady. And they said, hey, this lady's not allowed here. She was put on their facial recognition list to be excluded from this venue. This is absolutely insane. This happened probably a couple months ago now. And I think it was up in like New York or Massachusetts or something. If you want to Google it, look up the details more. But she was excluded just because they didn't like her. And they found out that they're like, that's her from facial recognition. This is absolutely insane. Just because they didn't like her. And it was a kid's thing. It had nothing to do with her job or anything. It was for her kid. It was an event. And they still kicked her out and excluded her. So you can bet this is what they're going to do in the future. I'm even at risk, all right? People are going to be like, hey, that's that Patrick guy. He says crazy stuff on the internet, and we need to get him out of here, all right? I'm even at risk of stuff like this. I get 100 comments a day of people saying I'm insane or I'm fear-mongering or whatever, some BS that people just don't get it, all right? And one of these people could own some company. They could have some business, and if I go into their business, they could have facial recognition, be like, this is boom, red flag, this is Patrick, get him out of here, all right? This is already happening in the United States of America, and apparently that was completely legal because it's a private venue, a private place, and they weren't like discriminating on her for any reason. It was just, it was her specifically. They didn't like her, so you need to be prepared, guys. This stuff is already all around us, this beast system. This is why you have to get out the big cities, because they're dangerous. And this is where all this technology is being implemented first. New York City, they're implementing this facial scanning just to go buy groceries, right? You have to consent to get your eyeballs scanned. This is very serious. Would you consent to get a fingerprint to go to the grocery store? You probably wouldn't, but it's essentially the same exact thing. It's essentially the same thing. It's like your fingerprint for your eyes. And they are just taking that without consent. They put up a little tiny sign, a little paper sign. They're like, hey, we're using biometric analysis here to capture data. And that's not good enough, all right? They're stealing our data all the time. Even our own genetic data is at risk. People use these websites like Ancestry or things like that, and they are sending their genetic data to these companies to break down, and who knows what they're going to use it for in the future. All right. And I'm not trying to like freak anyone out if you use these sites, but they are a risk. They are a massive risk, and there's known cooperations between these companies and government entities as well. So you're essentially just giving your DNA to the government, and potentially they could sell this DNA. They could be doing mad scientist work with it. All right, I was talking about Henrietta Lacks a little bit yesterday in my video. Go check out that video if you didn't watch it yesterday. Crazy video of what's going on. But they could be selling your data or even your genetic sequences, because that's what these companies do. They sequence your DNA, figure out what's going on in there, and they could be selling those sequences to other companies. And what happens if somebody replicates this sequence? Can they make clones of you? We've seen clones of animals before already. Dolly the lamb clones, Dolly the sheep clones, things like this. We see clones all the time of animals. People clone their dogs now that pass away. So what if they are using this DNA to clone humans as well, right? I know it's getting a little out there, but we just have to be thinking of what they're doing with our information, with our data. They could be building whole profiles of people, building alternate reality avatar profiles of people to replace you one day. All right. So make sure you guys are absolutely prepared. I've been at a very heightened level of alert lately. It kind of ebbs and flows sometimes. Like sometimes, like all right, maybe things aren't that bad. Like the plan's still moving forward, but maybe it's slowed down a little. Maybe there's been a blockade somewhere in the plan. But I feel like at a very high alert level lately, and I feel like they are going to implement something big this year already. It's only March 18th. This year has had so many drastic and insane events. It's hard to even remember all of them. That's why I'm always like, hey, you remember that glitch, that Bank of America glitch? Hey, you remember that Wells Fargo glitch? Hey, you remember that FAA glitch that grounded all the planes? It's like these things should be news stories for weeks because they are so big, but we just get a new one like the next day. The next day there's another massive story. So we are in the quickening, all right? 2030, Agenda 2030 is their agenda, and that's only 6.5 years away. All right. The 2016 election was 7 years ago. Okay. So time goes by really fast, and we are not that far from 2030. So we're going to see a quickening and a escalation of these events. All right. So make sure you are getting prepared. Get yourself a generator. I have a champion generator, those yellow ones, 3,500 running watts, 4,500 starting watts. It's an inverter generator. It has a 30 amp hookup, so I can plug my 30 amp RV right into it. And I love it. It has over 1,000 hours on it, and it still runs like a champion. All right. And I have no affiliation here or anything. I just like to give people good information because it's so hard when you're buying something like this. It's so hard to find what is actually good. You don't want to spend $500 on a generator and it craps out on you in the first 100 hours. Okay. So my generator has over 1,000 hours. It doesn't even count the hours anymore because it has so many on it, and it's still running great. All right. So just have these things just in case. They're getting us prepared for something big. And make sure you have gas canisters as well, filled with gas for your generator or for your car. Right? It's a double use. You can use it for an emergency for your generator, or if a couple months have gone by, the gas starting to get old, just dump it in your car. Or if there's an emergency, the gas stations are down, the banks are down, you can't access your account. You have gas, you can travel, you can move, you have electricity that you can ration, and you could charge your phone with, stay in communication with for a long time with a generator. All right. So get prepared now, guys. Stock up on food, stock up on seeds, get chickens now. All right. My chickens are going crazy on the eggs. They're liking the long days. The days are getting a lot longer and it's getting warmer. So now is the time. Now's the time to get spring chickens, get babies. They have a whole 6 months or whatever until it gets cold again to grow their coats out. Now is the perfect time. You can have them inside for a month and then put them outside right when it's spring chicken time, and they'll love it. All right. So thank you guys so much. I'm super blessed to have you watching. Please hit that like for me. Please hit that sub. Please hit that all too if you want to get notified for all my videos. You'll get notified right on your phone with a notification like a text or something like that if you click all. And thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.